Hey YouTube, this old woodland path used to pass by pre-civilized hamlets back in the day. And talking of pre-civilized hamlets, I'd like you to consider the biblical city of Tyre, which today has a population of around 175,000 people, and that will become relevant later. I recently exchanged emails with an apologist claiming that being an active witness protected her from the evils of the world. She recounted stories of her faith protecting her when others that left the cult soon became victims of domestic abuse, sexual disease, unplanned pregnancy, and other horrors. She posited her faith as the cure to the world's problems, starting with the problems of the individual. She said she had briefly explored what the world offered, but had returned to the safety that is her faith, having found no real peace nor joy in the world. And apostates like myself and others here on YouTube should return to the warm embrace of Jehovah's organisation, his spiritual paradise. The exchange of emails, however, quickly ended when I pointed out that that was no basis upon which to equate her personal experience with the cult environment as being a healthy one. From my own witness childhood, which I feel is fairly representative of the experience, I can say that the demonisation of education, the social isolation, the awkwardness and total lack of practice of making decisions for yourself is the intent and successful outcome of the governing body's direction to our parents. I've said before, cults hate children because children distract parents from the leadership. So the governing body uses the youth book and other publications to scare a child out of normal socialisation, whilst using terrifying images in the children's books to show exactly what will happen to you if you step out of line. Many children are emotionally and intellectually crippled this way. As you know, I'm a father, and having my own children forced me to realise that I never had a childhood, and that the real purpose of childhood completely passed me by. As a parent, I realised that childhood is first about having fun, and secondly, it's preparation to live as an adult, complete with critical thinking skills, and an awareness that decision-making is key to the successful outcomes of your life. That, personal responsibility, and independence of mind to think for yourself. However, my witness childhood was absolutely no fun and even less preparation for life as an adult in the real world. Is it any wonder that some of us born-ins make mistakes with the freedom and liberty that our parents demonised, denied us, and through trauma-inducing over-discipline left many of us unprepared for? Many of us made our first personal decisions when we left this cult, leaving us terrified and vulnerable to the first tricky situation we found ourselves in, and additionally suffering with that Jehovah's Witness predisposition to follow anyone that looks confident and sounds authoritative. I pointed out to the apologist that witnesses are protected from the world in the same way you might protect a child from falling over by removing his legs and locking him indoors in a harness. Yes, the child is safe, but totally unprepared and incapable if they have to enter the real world. I also reminded her of the abusive message to young children enforced with guilt and fear implicit in the Spurlock videos. So when that child does step into the freedom, outdoors into freedom, not only are they not prepared on a practical level, they have a much deeper emotional problem. When they step out, they know three things. They know that the only friends they've been allowed to have will shun them, and they know that God will kill them at any moment, literally any moment, and they know that the people they meet in the world are evil and rotten to the core, just as they must be now, so they might as well hang for a sheep as hang for a lamb. Is this, and the concomitant sense of personal worthlessness, a good basis for making sound decisions? or even caring about the outcomes of decisions. Is it any wonder that some of us make big mistakes and then return to that cold, clammy cult? I pointed out that the cult was the cause of those problems she mentioned, and not the solution. And to provide evidence for my point, I directed her to the research that very clearly proves a link between excessive religious sheltering and poor social outcomes. So often, over-sheltered children are not prepared or even able to come to terms with their own sexuality, or even had practice at even saying no to people. I pointed out that the witness upbringing was causal and not protective, and certainly nothing to do with a haughty child that just wouldn't listen, obey, and be blessed. Again, it's witnesses blaming the victim. I directed her to the evidence indicating that Jehovah's Witnesses experience excessive mental and emotional health issues when compared to the worldly public. There is a reason why witnesses suffer, and there is a reason the cult promotes our suffering. Emotionally crippling us prevents us from walking out of the Kingdom Hall and into the sunlight. Emotionally crippling us keeps the money flowing to them. And I found her response to this very interesting because there was none. This is something I find indicative of the brainwashed mindset of the typical Jehovah's Witness. Why should it be so hard to reach someone with logic, facts and common sense when they are only set against a pleasant delusion or JW fairy tale? Maybe I'll look at the psychological structure of deconversion one day. But before I go, check out Ezekiel chapter 26 verse 14, where it says the city of Tyre would be destroyed forever and never be rebuilt nor be found again. Almighty Jehovah God said that. Today it has a thriving population despite it being cursed directly from Jehovah's mouth. Enough said, really.